recent conversation with Jack, all right? Oh my God.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel where I'll be doing another episode recap for today's Days of Our Lives. So in the first scene we see Fiona and Xander, right? So Fiona is just happy that he's over there, and she's just trying to repair their relationship, right? Because they have a rocky one. So Xander was all in to do that. However, he saw something over there. That's where we left them on Friday's episode, right? So Xander saw a pair of underwear. We all know it's Brady's own, so he was asking like, who has been over here? So she's like, I met a handsome stranger, and I just had a great night with him. But I'm saying, Xander, this is your mom. Like, at the end of the day, it's none of your business who your parent, messes around with, right? As long as it's not affecting you at the end of the day, right? And she's a grown woman. She can do what she want to do. So anyways, she said she met the handsome stranger at Sweet Bits or Naughty Bits, as she called it. And they shared latte and all that. We all know that didn't happen, but she just made up this elaborate story. So anyways, he's like, he doesn't really want to hear the full details. So they moved on and they started talking about what Xander is going to do with the inheritance that Victor left him. And she was like, even though Victor had his faults, he wanted to make up for what he didn't give Xander all his life, right? So she's like, go ahead and take it, right? Take what is really yours. So he had a lot to think about, and then he left, right? So we see in the picture here, we see Brady is at the bar and he's drinking again, self-sabotaging, and then Alex comes over and Alex is like, care to share. So I'm like, Alex, this is your cousin. At the end of the day, he's a recovering alcoholic. You shouldn't be indulging it or engaging it, right? So anyways, they begin to talk about Teresa and how Teresa really played the both of them, and Alex is still recovering from everything, giving up the whole fortune and resigning from Titan. And they talked about Xander and how Xander's coming into all this inheritance and how it's complicated for him, and he's like, yeah. So they was just drowning their sorrows over liquor. And that was that, right? And Alex just has to come to terms with, relearning a lot of things and just going back to normal, being Justin's son, not being Victor's son, not being Victor's heir, and just really walking away from everything, right? So we see Stephanie at the hospital and Kayla's there, right? So Stephanie's like, hey, I didn't expect you to be here. So Stephanie begins to fill her in about what happened to Everett, right? She was like, how did he die? So she said they took him straight to the morgue, and she was like, she didn't even know that, he was even brought in. So Stephanie told her that, he's at the morgue, he, overdosed on some pills, right? So at this point, she's like, she's thinking that Bobby took over Everett's body, and, she's assuming that he intentionally took their life, right? So, she's just upset about it because he told her that he loved her in his final moments, and she didn't even get to give him a proper goodbye. And, right now she's just, she's just upset about it all, right? She just wished that she could have done something more. And Kayla was like, you did the best that you could. And then she's like, she has to just move past this, and, she's going to move back into the original apartment she shared with Chad. She's like, it's just gonna remind you about your guys' relationship. And she was like, yeah, we had some mostly good moments there, and I just have to move forward. I have to be independent. And Chad will, she started reminiscing about her relationship with Chad, and she was like, Chad couldn't fully commit to me because he was still not over Abigail, and they had a love history, right? And part of him still believes that Abigail is still alive. So they talk about him and Jack actually going to Missouri to find out if Abigail is truly alive, right? So, Kayla is just hoping that they find the answers that they truly need, right? So then we go on to the other scene. And trust me, I moved past this scene with Stephanie and Kayla because honestly, Stephanie's crying scenes were really cringe. She had the ugliest crying face and I just couldn't stand it. So, anyways, we see Alex. He's back at the curator's office because he left Brady there, right? And I should say that Brady did leave Tate a text message checking in on him. Brady just needs to get his life together because Tate deserves really stable parents. Between him and Teresa, they need to get their life together. So, anyways, we see Alex here and he's packing all his stuff, looking around, making sense of what really happened. And he sees the picture with him and Teresa and he throws it away because he's like, this lady really ruined everything for me, right? So as he's about to clear out his desk and move out the office, Xander comes in, right? So we see, Xander said, you know what, I'll come back another time. So he's like, no, I'm just clearing my desk. It's all yours now. So Xander is still unsure of whether he's going to take over Titan and all that belongs with it, right? He's just, conflicted. So Xander, he was like, if you really want to stay on with the company, you can do that. But Alex is like, I don't want no parts. I just need to move forward and sort out my life. So he proceeds to give him a watch that Maggie gave him for Christmas for Victor's son. So he's like, this is rightfully yours. So he's like, Alex, I couldn't impose. So he's like, no, you take it. I really don't want it. It's for Victor's son at the end of the day. So, wish him the best. And he said that he'll see him around, right? So that was that with them, right? So we see Brady go over back to Fiona's place, apparently taking up his underwear that he saw left there when, he escaped from the window when Xander was going over to see his mom, right? So anyways, he's back with his underwear and she was like, you're back already, right? I told you that you'll be back and I told you what would happen if the third time's a charm, right? So anyways, he's like, just excuse me while I put on my underwear. So she's like, no, please excuse me for sure. So anyways, she's there and they one thing led to another and they started to just make out and take it to the bed, I guess. So that was it with them. I mean, Brady, this is like you and Eve back in the day again. You just like the older woman, do you? Or you just mess with anybody at this point. But I don't think Xander's really gonna like this whole arrangement. But anyways, let's move forward. So we go back to Xander, right? And Xander's looking around the office trying to familiarize himself back again. Because remember, he used to run the company at some point. But, after talking with his mom and, his mom urging him to really take what is his, rightfully his, he gave it some thought. I don't know what's going to happen after this episode. Maybe he will take it over considering that he has a family to provide for, as his mom said, right? And I should mention that he wants her to come to their wedding and he forgives her for what she did, because he's also had done some awful things in his past and he got some forgiveness. So who is he to really not forgive his mom, right? So they move past it and he invites her over to be a part of the wedding and to also bring a +1 too, right? So anyways, he sits in the chair, the CEO chair, and really thinks about, I could really be Victor's son, Victor's heir, and take over this thing. So let's see what happens with them. And I'm hoping he really does take over. He rightfully deserves it. After all that he's been through with Victor and how he treated him as the help, the landscaper, the garden boy, the henchman, he deserves this. I'm happy for Xander, honestly. So we go to Chad and Jack. And remember, Chad and Jack are in Missouri to find out if Abigail is truly alive. They've been looking around buildings and, they find this one lot building that matches the description of the video with the lady in it, right? So Chad kicks down the door and to their surprise, and our surprise, it's actually John tied up. So remember in the last episode on Friday that Steve told Marlena that John was missing and he doesn't know if John is dead or alive, right? Because he found some blood on a note that was left at Katarina's grave. So turns out John is in Missouri, he's tied up, and Chad and Jack are like, they can't believe that he's here. So they're like, what are you doing here? So he's like, he's not even sure himself because the last thing he remembered, he was in Greece and somebody hit him over the head. So he doesn't know what happened. So anyways, they're on time and, he gets to talk to Marlena and tell him that, tell her that he's fine. He's in Missouri. Actually, he doesn't know how he got there, but he's on his way to see her, right? So anyways, get off the phone, and John asks them, what are they doing there? So they begin to tell him about, the possibility of Abigail being alive, and they show him the video, and he gives his take on it. So he's like, Clyde could just be playing with you guys, but then Chad is like, it could be real too. So he's like, yeah, you may be right. So anyways, he looked back on the video, and Chad said, do you think that this could be the building? So he said, based on the angle, it could be, it could be possible. So anyways, they get up, and John was gonna stay back to see who the captors are, and Chad was gonna stay because he wants to know if they're related to Abigail actually being alive and all that. So Jack was urging him not to, because of the kids, and to go back home, but he's like, nah, I'm staying here. I need to find out if the lady is really Abigail. And Jack follows John to get some medical help because he was not in no condition to stay there, right? So we see Steve and Marlena, and Steve begins to tell Marlena what he discovered in Greece, and that he couldn't find John, and he saw some blood on a note that he left there and some roses. And Marlena's like, so you really don't know where John is, or if he's dead or alive? So he's like, no, and I'm sorry I didn't tell you earlier, but I just really can't find him. So that was when she got the call from Jack's phone, and she thought it was Jack, and John answered, and John tells her everything, and that was it, right? So at this point, Kayla comes in, right? And Steve tells her that John is alive and everything. They're sorting out everything at the moment, so she's like, she's glad to hear that, right? So they sit down, and Kayla begins to talk about one of Marlena's patients, and she's like, what happened? So she's like, it's about Everett Lynch. So this was where it stopped, right? I guess she's about to tell her that Everett is dead, right? So we move on to the next scene. So while Jack brings John for some medical attention, they leave Chad behind in the room, right? So Chad is looking around, and he sees a bracelet or some kind of jewelry, right? It belonged to, so he's like, this is Abigail. So we're now assuming that, we're close to seeing if Abigail is truly alive, or maybe it's just a trap. We don't know, right? So we just have to stay tuned to see what happens, right? So that is it, guys. I do apologize if it sounds a little bit muffled. I'm still recovering from some allergies, sinus. I guess it's that time, that season. But yes, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to my channel. I will see you guys tomorrow for all the recap. Bye.